and better.
I'm sorry. I'm a sergeant, and this is Dexter Morgan. He's a forensic analyst.
Dexter Morgan wasn't just a man with a secret. He was a storm that tore through the lives of everyone he loved. His darkness didn't just end with his victims, it seeped into his family, his friends, and even his son, leaving a trail of broken relationships and shattered lives. How does one person's secret life wreak so much chaos? And was there ever a way for Dexter to escape the destruction he caused?
Hannah McKay. She spent 6 years in juvie after pleading guilty to being Wayne Randall's accomplice.
Harry Morgan wasn't just Dexter's adoptive father, he was the man who shaped every part of Dexter's life. A veteran Miami homicide detective, Harry had seen humanity at its worst. From cold-blooded killers to criminals slipping through the cracks of the justice system, he had dedicated his life to fighting the evil that lurked in the shadows. But nothing could prepare him for the day he discovered the darkness hiding within his son.
This isn't a game, Dexter.
No, I know.
It's not supposed to be fun.
When Harry first found out about Dexter's disturbing tendencies, he didn't respond like most parents might. He didn't reach out to therapists or specialists to understand why his child seemed so drawn to violence. Harry saw something deeper, something he thought only he could control. Dexter wasn't just a troubled boy, he was a problem Harry believed needed solving. With years of experience as a detective, Harry convinced himself that he could guide his son's impulses, shaping them into something he saw as productive. This belief led him to create what would later be called the Code of Harry. The Code wasn't just a set of rules, it was Harry's way of coping with a problem he couldn't face head-on. Dexter was taught to target only those who deserved it, criminals who had escaped justice. Harry believed that by giving Dexter this moral framework, he could transform a budding monster into a force for good. It was a radical idea, one born from desperation, love, and an overwhelming fear of what Dexter might become without guidance. At first, it seemed to work. Dexter learned to channel his dark urges, choosing his victims carefully and masking his true nature with a calm, controlled exterior. For a while, Harry might have even believed he had found the perfect solution. But the cracks began to show as Dexter grew older. The theory that Harry had built his son's life around was tested when Dexter killed his first human victim. For Harry, this wasn't just an abstract idea anymore. He wasn't looking at a list of rules on paper or discussing hypothetical situations. Instead, he was standing face to face with the cold reality of what he had created. Dexter wasn't just his son, he was a killer. A blood-soaked, calculated killer. That moment changed everything for Harry. He saw the monster he had tried so hard to control and realized that his plan might have been nothing more than an illusion. The weight of this realization was unbearable. Harry had spent years convincing himself that he could protect society from his son, that he could shape Dexter into a man who only targeted those who truly deserved it. But in that horrifying moment, the truth was impossible to ignore. Harry wasn't in control. The darkness in Dexter was something far greater than Harry could handle, and the crushing guilt of what he had unleashed began to consume him. 3 days later, Harry took his own life. The man who had shaped Dexter's entire existence, who had built every foundation of his moral framework, was suddenly gone. For Dexter, Harry's death wasn't just the loss of a father, it was the loss of the one person who understood him, and who accepted his darkness even as he tried to contain it. Dexter was left with countless unanswered questions. Did Harry die because he couldn't face the monster he had created? Or was it the crushing guilt of having shaped his son's darkness into something even more terrifying? Harry's death wasn't just a personal loss for Dexter, it was the moment his world shifted forever. Every choice Dexter made after that was haunted by the weight of Harry's influence. The code that Harry had created became both a guide and a chain, tying Dexter to a life of secrecy and destruction. While Harry believed he was saving his son and society, he unintentionally left behind a legacy of guilt and darkness. His death was the first major fracture in Dexter's life, setting the stage for the chaos that would follow in every relationship Dexter tried to maintain. Deborah Morgan was the kind of person who wore her heart on her sleeve. Fierce, loyal, and determined, she lived her life in the shadow of her father, Harry, constantly chasing his approval while trying to make a name for herself in the male-dominated world of law enforcement. Through all the chaos and uncertainty of her life, there was one constant: her brother Dexter. To Deborah, Dexter was her rock, her moral compass, the one person who always seemed to have it all together. He was her anchor when everything else felt like it was spinning out of control. Deborah idolized Dexter in a way few siblings do. She leaned on him emotionally, trusted him unconditionally, and believed he was the one person she could always count on. To her, Dexter was more than just a brother. He was her family, her confidant, her safe place. In many ways, she saw him as the epitome of calm and control, the perfect foil to her chaotic energy. But that image of Dexter, the composed and dependable older brother, was built on a foundation of lies. The truth about who Dexter was shattered Deborah's world in a way she could never have imagined. When Deborah discovered Dexter's secret, it wasn't just a betrayal, it was a full-scale implosion of everything she believed in. Her brother, the man she had trusted with her life, wasn't just hiding a dark side. He was a serial killer, someone who operated outside the very system they both worked so hard to uphold. For Deborah, the realization wasn't just about Dexter's actions, it was about what those actions meant for her own life. She was left grappling with the horrifying truth that the person she loved most was capable of unspeakable horrors. It wasn't just a crack in their relationship, it was an earthquake that shook her to her core. Despite this betrayal, Deborah's loyalty to Dexter never wavered. It should have. Any rational person might have walked away or turned him in. But Deborah wasn't like that. She couldn't abandon her brother, even when she knew she should. Her love for Dexter overrode her sense of morality, her commitment to justice, and even her well-being. She lied for him, covered for him, and made excuses for the choices he made. The defining moment of Deborah's loyalty came when she killed Maria LaGuerta, the police captain who had discovered Dexter's secret. In that single devastating moment, Deborah crossed a line she could never come back from. It wasn't just an act of protection, it was a sacrifice of her very identity. That act marked the beginning of Deborah's unraveling. Everything she believed in, justice, truth, integrity, was slowly eroded as she became more entangled in Dexter's darkness. The choices she made to protect him weren't just compromises, they were acts of self-destruction. She lost her sense of who she was, and her moral compass shattered under the weight of her brother's secret. Her career, once a source of pride and purpose, became another casualty of her loyalty to Dexter. Every lie she told, and every rule she broke, pulled her further away from the person she wanted to be. Rita Bennett was a beacon of hope, a woman rebuilding her life after enduring years of pain and trauma. Having escaped an abusive marriage, she was working hard to create a safe and loving environment for herself and her 2 children. When Dexter Morgan entered her life, he seemed like the perfect partner. Quiet, dependable, and supportive, Dexter was everything Rita needed to start over. To the outside world, they looked like the picture-perfect family, a loving couple with a bright future. But beneath the surface, their relationship was built on a foundation of lies. For Dexter, Rita was more than just a partner, she was his shield. She provided him with a sense of normalcy, a way to blend into society without raising suspicion. Being with her allowed Dexter to wear the mask of a loving husband and devoted father, hiding the darkness that defined his true nature. At first, Rita was just part of his carefully crafted facade, a tool to keep his double life hidden. But over time, something shifted. Dexter began to genuinely care for her. In his rare moments of self-reflection, he admitted to himself that Rita represented something he thought he could never have: love, stability, and a chance at a normal life. Despite Dexter's growing affection for Rita, their relationship was always haunted by the secrets he kept. She saw him as her rock, someone who brought calm and safety into her chaotic world. What she couldn't see was the storm brewing behind Dexter's carefully constructed lies. As Dexter continued his secret life as a serial killer, the risks he took to maintain his facade began to grow. His obsession with catching his victims, particularly the Trinity killer, set in motion a chain of events that would have devastating consequences. Rita's death at the hands of the Trinity killer was not just a random act of violence, it was the direct result of Dexter's double life. In his pursuit of Trinity, Dexter underestimated the danger he was bringing into his home. He was so consumed by his need to satisfy the code of Harry that he failed to see the threat Trinity posed to the people he cared about most. When Trinity murdered Rita, it wasn't just a tragedy. It was the ultimate price of Dexter's obsession. Her death shattered the illusion of normalcy that Dexter had worked so hard to maintain. Angel Batista was one of those rare people who seemed to radiate warmth and kindness, even in the gritty and unforgiving world of Miami Metro. As a homicide detective, he saw the worst humanity had to offer, but he never let that darkness harden him. To Angel, Dexter Morgan wasn't just a colleague, he was a trusted friend, someone he considered family. While others in their department occasionally found Dexter enigmatic or distant, Angel saw him as a dependable, good-hearted man. His perception of Dexter wasn't clouded by suspicion or doubt. It was a testament to Angel's character, his ability to see the best in people. We'd recommend that you subscribe now, or else you may be next on Dexter's kill list. For Angel, Dexter was more than just a coworker who could be relied upon to solve cases. He was someone Angel could share moments of camaraderie with, a quiet yet meaningful bond formed over years of working side by side. Angel's view of Dexter was built on trust and mutual respect. He admired Dexter's sharp mind and calm demeanor, often turning to him for advice or just to share a drink after a long day. To Angel, Dexter was the kind of person who kept the team grounded, someone who embodied the best qualities of a colleague and friend. But Dexter's relationship with Angel was built on a foundation of lies. While Angel saw Dexter as trustworthy and decent, he had no idea about the dark truth lurking beneath the surface. Dexter's decision to keep Angel in the dark wasn't out of malice, it was out of necessity. He believed that telling Angel the truth about his double life would destroy their friendship and put Angel in an impossible position. Dexter often justified his secrecy by telling himself he was protecting Angel, sparing him from the burden of knowing the monstrous side of his life. But by withholding the truth, Dexter also deprived their friendship of authenticity. It was a bond built on an illusion, one that only existed because Angel had no reason to doubt the man he thought he knew. What made their friendship so tragic was Angel's unwavering belief in Dexter's goodness. While others at Miami Metro occasionally questioned Dexter's quirks or aloofness, Angel never let those doubts creep in. He was loyal to a fault, defending Dexter without hesitation and offering him support whenever he needed it. Angel's blind loyalty wasn't a reflection of naivety, but rather his genuine faith in the people he cared about. He didn't see Dexter as a puzzle to solve or a mask to uncover. He saw a friend worth believing in. This blind loyalty, however, was both Angel's greatest strength and his greatest vulnerability. By refusing to question Dexter's actions or motives, Angel remained blissfully unaware of the darkness that defined his friend's life. In many ways, his friendship with Dexter was a tragic irony. Angel represented everything Dexter wished he could be: open, kind, and genuinely good-hearted. Dexter even admitted in a rare moment of reflection that if he could choose to be anyone, he would want to be Angel. But despite his admiration for Angel, Dexter couldn't bring himself to trust him with the truth. Angel's unwavering faith in Dexter ultimately highlights the tragedy of their relationship. Dexter valued Angel's friendship deeply, but his secrets created an insurmountable distance between them. While Angel believed their bond was genuine, Dexter knew it was built on a lie. By keeping Angel in the dark, Dexter spared him the pain of knowing the truth, but also denied him the chance to truly know the man he considered a friend. The relationship between Dexter and Angel raises a difficult question. Was it kinder for Dexter to protect Angel from the truth, or was it a betrayal of their friendship to keep him in the dark? Angel's belief in Dexter was pure, but it was also rooted in ignorance. By withholding the truth, Dexter allowed their friendship to remain intact, but at the cost of authenticity. For Angel, the friendship was real. For Dexter, it was another carefully maintained facade. Harrison Morgan represented something Dexter never thought he could have: a chance at redemption. When Harrison was born, Dexter was struck by an overwhelming sense of hope. For a man whose life had been consumed by darkness, the arrival of his son felt like a chance to rewrite his story. Harrison was innocent, untouched by the horrors that had shaped Dexter's life, and for a moment, Dexter allowed himself to believe he could be a father capable of providing love and stability. In Harrison, Dexter saw the possibility of leaving behind a legacy of love instead of violence, of being something more than a monster. But that hope was short-lived. Harrison's life began in tragedy. a moment so dark that it mirrored the horrors of Dexter's childhood. As a baby, Harrison was found crying in a pool of his mother Rita's blood, the victim of the Trinity killer. The scene was hauntingly similar to what Dexter had experienced as a child when he was discovered sitting in a pool of his mother's blood after she was brutally murdered. This parallel wasn't lost on Dexter. He saw the same trauma that had shaped him now threatening to define his son's life. It was as if history was repeating itself, and Dexter was powerless to stop it. For Dexter, this moment was devastating. He wanted to believe he could shield Harrison from the darkness that had consumed his own life. But Rita's death shattered that illusion. The one person who had brought light and love into their family was gone, and Dexter was left to pick up the pieces. Yet, instead of confronting the challenges of raising Harrison and helping him navigate a world filled with unanswered questions, Dexter made what he believed was the hardest decision of his life. He walked away. Dexter's decision to leave Harrison was framed as an act of love, a way to protect him from the danger that surrounded Dexter's double life. He convinced himself that Harrison would be safer and happier with someone else, leaving him in the care of Hannah McKay, a woman he believed could provide the stability he couldn't. But was it truly an act of love, or was it cowardice? By leaving, Dexter didn't just abandon his son physically, he left Harrison with an emotional void that would shape his entire life. Harrison wasn't just losing a father, he was losing the chance to understand himself, his past, and the truth about the man who had left him behind. As Harrison grew up, the shadow of Dexter's legacy loomed large over his life. He carried the scars of his early trauma, even if he couldn't fully remember the events that caused them. The absence of his father left him grappling with feelings of abandonment, confusion, and anger. Who was his father? Why had he left? And what did it mean for Harrison's own identity? These questions haunted him, shaping the way he saw the world and himself. Harrison's story highlights the devastating impact of Dexter's choices. By walking away, Dexter hoped to protect his son from the cycle of darkness that had consumed his own life. But instead, he left Harrison vulnerable to that very same cycle. Without his father to guide him, Harrison was left to navigate a world filled with unanswered questions and the weight of a legacy he didn't understand. Dexter believed he was breaking the cycle by leaving, but in truth, his absence only reinforced it. Harrison was left to deal with the consequences of his father's actions alone, carrying the burden of a family history marked by tragedy and loss. Harrison's journey forces us to confront a painful truth about Dexter's character. For all his claims of love and protection, Dexter ultimately failed his son most fundamentally. He didn't give Harrison the tools he needed to understand or overcome the darkness that surrounded him. Instead, he left him with nothing but questions and the scars of a life shaped by violence and abandonment.